2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host, and my name is David Streggy. I happen to run Inside Movies Galore as well, but Delusions of Grandeur has been kind of a discussional thing that Boris and I kind of started. And hopefully you have enjoyed our journey. Today we have Tammy, who has joined us. Hello, Tammy.
Hello.
And we also have Krol. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's good to be here.
So today we are going to go on about a film that was directed by William Freidkin in 1973, and it was based on a novel that was written for the screen as well as written in 1971 of the same name by William Peter Blatty. The film stars Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, Lee J. Cobb, Kitty Wynn, Jack McGowan in his final film role, Jason Miller, and Linda Blair. It is the first installment in the Exorcist film series. And let me just say what IMDb says about the film before we go into our first impressions. So, when a 12-year-old girl is possessed by a mysterious entity, her mother seeks the help of two priests to save her. So, first impressions. I'm going to go with you, Boris. What were your first impressions of this film? And was this a first-time watch for you?
No, this was not the first time watch. Actually, it was my third time. The first time was, I think, 2012 or 2013. And my first impressions were actually kind of interesting, I must admit. I remember watching it shortly after I had just begun exploring the horror genre. And at that very beginning, I was still somewhat easily disturbed by some things in horror. And I had heard people say The Exorcist, that's one of the scariest movies ever. And I was like, once I gain the courage to watch that movie, then I will probably be sure that no movie can ever scare me again. And then at one point, I went to check some clips on YouTube from the movie, and I ran into some of these clips of the demon using bad language, vomiting in people's faces and stuff like that. And at first, when I saw that, I thought I had run into some parody of the movie, not the real movie, because I thought in a movie that's supposed to be scary, you don't get curse words and vomit and shit like that. But then I realized that actually was the real movie, and then I realized it probably wasn't really as scary as people were saying. And then I went to watch it and realized it really wasn't so scary, although I still enjoyed it. It was quite entertaining, I must say. Although it's supposed to be a horror movie, I actually had a lot of laughter with the scenes. So the demon insulting anyone, using horrible bad language, vomiting in people's faces, and so on. So yeah, maybe my impressions weren't what the filmmakers back then wanted it to be, but I still enjoyed the movie. How about the rest of you? Dave, your microphone is muted.
Sorry. How about you, Krol? Was this a first-time watch for you?
No.
And What was your first time viewing this
My
film?
first time, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was around 83. Actually didn't realize it came out in 73. 73 was the year I was born. So we share a birthday. So I was probably about 10, I think. I had seen many horror movies. My mother is a huge horror film fan, and always screamed at every movie she ever watched. I just started watching. I'd get scared at first, but when I saw Exorcist, I wasn't scared. I guess by that point I was already used to horror movies, and it didn't really scare me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie as a kid. It never really scared me, and I remember my mother saying it's one of the scariest movies, and I just looked at her like, yeah, okay. Yeah, she always said that about Alien too, and that didn't scare me either. So, guess I'm desensitized to that. So, I definitely agreed with Boris that it wasn't really scary. And there was one scene where I laughed.
Hello, guys. These people who are commenting right now. These are my friends who I shared the link with before we began. So, hi everyone, and thanks for being here.
Nice. Glad they can make it. Yeah. So I definitely enjoyed the second watch, even more than the first time because I was able to analyze things and realize just how well the movie was put together. The scenes, like I don't imagine they could make the movie any better now. There's just no, it was just that well done. And Linda Blair as a child was absolutely phenomenal job in the role. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I think everyone did a great job acting. There was nothing really cringe about it. There was nothing cheesy or anything. It's just, you know, the only thing it was strange that I noticed that they never really explained how she got possessed. Like at first, I thought maybe she was going to get a hold of one of the artifacts or something because I had forgotten. And she didn't. So never explained how she got possessed, but it was still an absolute great movie, and Linda Blair was absolutely phenomenal in that role.
Well, let's go over to Tammy with her first impression. I think she might have an answer for that. But was this a first time watch viewing for you, Tammy?
No, I believe the first time I watched it actually was with my dad because, the movie came out like around the time I was born, since I was born in 72. I, of course, didn't watch it when it came out. But my father and I didn't get together until I was like 12 years old. But by that time, he knew I liked horror movies. And he turned me on to like Night of the Living Dead. And the first time I watched it was with him. And other movies, I think he felt that I was old enough to watch this one. So the first time I watched it, yeah, being like about 12 years old or whatever, I just like, wow, okay, that's kind of freaky. And, but then as I watched it when I got older, yes, I do think that Linda Blair was excellent. And I think how she got possessed is, remember when she showed her mom found the Ouija board and her mom was going to do it with her and the little thing moved away before her mother could touch it. I think she had been playing on the Ouija board by herself because she had said Captain Howdy and she was asking for Captain Howdy on it. I think that she got something out of that board that she didn't expect is how it all started. But I think, like I said, as I got older, I appreciated the film a lot more than when I was younger and saw it for the first time and just went, wow, and everything. Like when we were rewatching it, I know every time I watch it, I seem to see things that I didn't see the time before.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about the Ouija board. But I don't think it was just an entity. I think it really was the devil, which is strange because usually the Ouija board just gets a ghost or something. But you're probably right. I guess it was the Ouija board. I saw that scene, and for some reason I put it right out of my mind, not thinking about it. But But
And
Uh,
what's interesting in horror films, the name Captain Howdy has come up in several horror films since. I believe it came up in, The Devil's Rejects as a name. And D. Snyder did a movie called Strangeland where his name was, in fact, Captain Howdy. And there was also another entity that I remember. I think it might have been a spiritual apparition in a movie that I saw from the 80s that also used the name Captain Howdy.
wow, I've
So
seen all those movies, but I didn't even catch the connection. Didn't even think about it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
To me, I feel like those are all like influenced by The Exorcist. But let me go into my first impressions. So I had always heard about this movie. It was one of those movies that I know my mom did not allow me to see, but I did finally see it on my own, and I would have to say about 15 years ago. And then the second time was when I actually picked up the box set, which I found the box set for about $13.99, which I wish Tammy had brought the box set over to show us, but that's okay. But I finally saw the other. The movie that you weren't supposed to see with the backwards crawling and some of the extra scenes that they didn't put into the film, but I also watched the theatrical version at the time, and I was impressed for the things that happened in it. I mean, it's definitely got some elements of horror, but like I think Boris has said here, that a lot of the scenes seem a little bit more comical in nature, just because of we've seen so many things that have probably done some similar things, maybe even better. But for the time that these effects came out, there's the set. This is a really nice DVD set. I mean, it's got The Exorcist, Exorcist 2, Exorcist 3.
Very nice.
Exorcist the Beginning and Exorcist Dominion, if I remember correctly. But my first impression of this film was they definitely got some of the bedrooms as scenes pretty cool. I mean, I love the fact that the bed shakes. I love the fact that she levitates and all that jazz. I love the fact that her entire head spins around. Plus the whole entire like leading up where you got the detective looking into the whole thing, and he comes at the priest. He comes at the priest. He comes at the priest with some interesting questions, like saying, "Do you go to movies?" Well, I've got a pass for this thing, and he says some bogus actors for whatever movie that he's going to see, and they're like, "I've seen it." And he's like, "Oh, you're one of those guys," So, but he's investigating the death of the man that just so happens to be in Sharon's life, who is played by Ellen Burstyn. And what's interesting is our podcast, Inside Movies Galore, we went on about this film some time ago, and we actually ended up having a real Catholic priest on the show by the name of Father Brian Small. He actually runs a panel discussing the Exorcist films at Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia. So I thought I'd mention that there. So if anyone wants to go back and listen to our original thing. But since neither you, Boris, nor Tammy, nor Krol were on that particular audio recording or video recording, I thought this was a good opportunity to go and revisit it. So one of the things that I remember from that discussion was the heavily underlying currents of the fact that Reagan, the young child here, played by Linda Blair, there were some underlying currents that Burke had actually sexually abused her.
Where was anything about that? And I never noticed that.
It's not that it was said, it was more or less implied.
How? When?
Yeah, I missed that myself. I never noticed that.
Well, yeah. If you notice that, I mean, Dane and and the priest that was on Father Small, they knew a hell of a lot more to what went on to kind of suggest that a little bit more than I. But there were some undercurrents of a very possible sexual abuse going on from the man that was supposedly staying with Sharon and Reagan to possibly suggest that. What do you think about that suggestion, Tammy, of Reagan being abused by that Burke person?
Well, Burke was the director of the movie that her mom was in, and I didn't really see him actually staying there. He just was around a lot because he happened to be the director of the movie that her mom was starring in. So I did not catch any of that, and I did not really see much interaction between Burke and Reagan.
No, but there was a moment where Reagan was actually talking to her mom about the fact that that he's going to be moving in. Don't you really like him, mommy? As she was just going to bed, and she was talking about the fact that she really liked him and that she might marry him someday. So. That's the only thing that I can think of, and the fact that it did seem like there was somewhat of a connection between the director and her, because as he was getting drunk at that party, he gave her a hug and all that jazz, and to me, just kind of seemed like a jerk. Well, let's begin about where this film begins. This film begins actually on an archaeological dig. What did y'all think about that original scene where we see this artifact being dug up? What did y'all think about that beginning part?
Well, the first time I watched the movie, I kind of didn't find that part too interesting. I thought it was dragging on a bit too long. I just wanted to see the possession, the exorcism, and so on. But nowadays, when I have explored all this demonic, satanic stuff a bit more, I found it more interesting, especially because I'm a collector of statues, as you can see in my background. And I find this statue rather interesting that they find at the archaeological site. It's a statue of a demon named Pazuzu, who is actually Krol mentioned the Reagan being possessed by the devil himself, which is not the case actually. If you have seen other movies in the Exorcist franchise, and even this statue at the beginning confirms it, because, like I said, that's a statue of Pazuzu, who is actually the demon that possessed Dragon, and he falsely introduced himself as the devil. Yeah, but it
Hmm.
was just that demon, which is more discussed in The Exorcist 2, which I saw a while ago. But yeah, I have gone a bit off topic now. Uh,
Well, and I'll be honest, it took me till at least this time of actually watching the movie that Ellen Burstyn plays Sharon, the mother, and the fact that she was an actress in the background. Ground. See, I didn't pay attention to that, nor the fact that the priest that she ends up meeting, Carys, um, that oh, and just to tell you something, Boris, do you think it's a little coincidental that his first name is Damien?
oh yeah. I think that's very ironic. Although I don't think it's a coincidence because this movie was released in 1973, which is before The Omen. So unless whoever, I mean, I know who David Seltzer, who wrote The Omen, unless he chose the name Damien in order to make some sort of fun of this priest character. I don't know. But if not, then yeah, it's one hell of a coincidence.
Definitely. But we get this beginning scene where this little statue is found at the archaeological dig, and I guess it's supposed to mean something. But then we go to a scene where I guess Sharon is, in fact, filming something on a set with her director, and it looks like there's some kind of a protest going on in the scene of some sort. What do y'all think about this? I thought it was kind of cool to see some of those old movie cameras in that scene. What do y'all think?
Well, first of all, I'd like to back up a little bit. When you were talking about the sexual abuse thing,
Yeah.
and you were saying about they were talking on the bed. It was actually the little girl that said, "Don't you want to marry
Yep.
your mom?" And she
Yep.
said no. I love him, but that doesn't mean I always. And then she mentioned her father, and she said, "I always love your father," but she just doesn't want to marry him. So I don't really see how there was any, because the kid seemed like happy about the guy, like she didn't seem upset about him at all, or wary or anything. Like she just mentioned him and was all smiling and giggling with her mother. So it really, I mean, if there was other catches, I don't see it, but
Well,
that doesn't really give me an indication. And then
neither did I see anything about that the last time that we went on about this. So to me, that was new information to me, and the fact that they were implicating that might actually have happened. It puts a little bit of a spin onto the story if that were the case.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Would explain why she killed him first. Even maybe because of Reagan's feelings towards him, the demon capitalized that and killed him for it. If that was the case, or it just could have been the demon just wanting to kill. So who knows?
Oh yeah.
And okay, going to the archaeology thing. I don't remember as a kid seeing that part. Like when I saw it now, I'm like, I don't remember this at all. So it didn't stand me as a kid. Most of the scenes with Reagan definitely I remember. But I liked it this time. I thought it was really interesting. Like I said, I thought it was going to tie in to how she got possessed. But it didn't. So I was a little bit confused of why they added it. But from what Boris has said of who the entity is that that possessed her, that now makes sense of why they added it. But like I said, I did thought it was cool because I used to, when I was a kid, I liked archaeology, and I just I thought it was cool just seeing the little statue, and he did say it was like evil upon evil when he looked at it. They never explained exactly what it meant or anything, just evil upon evil, and and that's when he went to America. Was it America? Would this assume? I'm not even sure.
Yeah, it was.
They said Georgetown, and I'm like, is that in the U.S.? I mean, it seemed like they weren't talking English. They were talking
Well,
American.
if you remember some of the scenes that this is going forward a little bit, but there were scenes that the priest Carys were actually witnessing of like a vision of his mother, and you saw in the background when she was going down into the underground tunnel. It actually said Brooklyn on the tunnel, so I'm thinking that this is Brooklyn, New York, where this is somewhat based. So
they said Georgetown, when they first moved from the archaeology part.
That's probably the Georgetown University.
I didn't know where Georgetown was, so I was like, okay. I know they mentioned that she was invited to the White House too, so that was another indication that they were probably in the U.S. So yeah, and that scene where she was an actress, and I enjoyed it. It looked really cool. I'm like, oh, it's they're making a movie on a movie. I thought that was good, and couldn't tell exactly what the movie was going to be about, except definitely some kind of protest to the school system, I guess. So it seemed very interesting movie that they were doing, and she seemed like a decent actress and stuff. So it was a cool scene. Definitely,
and that's kind of where we get our first appearance of Damien Carys, as he's a man that's standing in the crowd, and he's obviously admiring her as an actress while still being part of the community. And then eventually we get to learn a little bit more about Damien, is that he used to be a boxer. And at this point in time, he is a psychiatrist for the Roman Catholic Church. And I guess he's had an experience with a young boy that they somewhat mention that, but they don't mention it entirely. What happened with him? All I know is that it made him lose his faith, like almost entirely. So he's had a down point in his life, and obviously he's taking care of his mother, or trying to. She's like getting into like old age and Alzheimer's and stuff like that, and while he's out and about, I guess his mother's brother just up and like throws her in a mental institution, and he's stuck in a like void of like what to do, how to deal with the situation. And if I remember correctly, she dies somewhat during all of this too.
She dies, because that's one of the things later on the demon used against him to try to get to him. That his mother is dead, and and
your mother sucks cocks in hell.
So, what do we think about Damien Carys as a character? What about you, Tammy? What do you think about him as a character?
Well, going back to actually the beginning with the statue and everything, at first I didn't understand why that was all in there either, because it takes a long time before it's connected. It doesn't really get connected till Carys. That's the other priest, the older priest?
No, that's not the older priest. Carys is the younger priest.
Okay, but you don't really get the connection till the older priest comes in, because he's the one that found it. Then you get the connection with the statue when he later on when he comes in. So
that would be Father Dyer, who was played by William O'Malley, I believe.
right, but he was on the archaeological.
Oh, wait.
Father Dyer
Father
was that one.
That's right. That's right. It was Father Lancaster Marin, who was played by Max von Sydow.
But you don't really get the connection until later when he comes into this, the picture about that archaeological dig and what was found and everything. Then it kind of makes more sense why that beginning was there. But until you get to that point, you don't really get why that whole beginning that was there.
Well, yeah, it seems like that part was lazily thrown in there to try to connect it in some way, shape, or form. And there was something that the detective found at the base of the steps that Burke had actually fallen down that made me think of that particular statue. Remember he picked up something stone.
He picked up a little clay animal that Reagan had made because remember she liked making them. She had the turtle and she had this, whatever this one was. Evidently was probably on the windowsill or whatever, and it went out the window when Burke went out the window.
Well, I'm not sure what it was that the detective found there, but to me it looked a lot like this first item found by Father Marin in Iraq, although I'm not sure if that was it. I'm not sure how exactly it got there. I found that part a bit confusing.
At first, I thought that it was a birthday present that was found by the father and sent to her as a birthday present, and that was to excuse his absence of calling her, in a sense. But I could be wrong. I don't think that entirely happened, but that's what when I first saw this film, I think that's what I thought at first. But
she makes those little clay animals, and she paints them and everything. She had that bird that she was showing her mom, and her mom said it still has to dry. And then when the detective is there, he picks up the turtle that she did.
Yep.
And when he's looking at the turtle, he's thinking of the thing that he picked up, and that it was probably what out the window, with Burke. It's a clay thing that she actually made, and it was probably drying for sure for her to paint it, is what it was. But back to what you said also about the filming, I thought that was a kind of neat scene. You got to see her acting, you got to see the priest admiring her work, and so I think that was pretty neat, because you actually got to see her, what she does.
Well, and she ended up walking home after that, and kind of like walking by like the where Carys actually apparently worked or whatnot, and so they kind of continue to like connect them together as the film progresses. Even though it's like at a distance, the connection is somewhat there. Like she is aware that he is somewhere nearby, and that's why she begins to ask questions about him. Who is that priest with the dark hair that I saw? That I saw at the dinner table to Father Dyer, where he tells her, yeah, he's our local Catholic psychiatrist or whatnot. But let's talk about the first scene in which we see Reagan show up, where she gets home, and I guess she's got some kind of a female secretary slash. I guess she's kind of a home care person, like a nanny for Reagan, I think. But she's also got servants in her up at her place too. She's got a butler. It looks like she's got a cleaning lady, who is also a cook. What do y'all think about that first impression that we see of Regan? Does she seem like she's a happy-go-lucky child?
Well,
Yes.
at the beginning, at the beginning it seemed that way. It seemed like light-hearted family scene with warm atmosphere and so on. I guess that was kind of like uh, uh, I guess they intended to show the contrast between how it was at the beginning and when everything was nice and smooth and everything, and then all the mess that happens later on.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
100% agree with that. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, she looks like just a really happy kid, and she's all happy about she was riding on a horse, and she really wants to get a horse, and she's just a really happy kid. And every scene you saw her in, before the possession, she's a happy kid. So it goes back, a little bit later when the mother's saying to the priest that thing up there is not her daughter. And they even showed how like you said, the contrast between the two, that she was really a happy kid, and that no matter what they think that it might be a split personality or whatever, she's like, there's no friggin' way that that's gonna be her daughter. It's not a split personality. It's not schizophrenia or anything. So
well, no, even the
definitely.
doctors are baffled later on, but we'll get to that.
I think
So,
it seemed like she
yeah.
was really happy and she was having fun with her mom. I think what was it? She took a cookie or whatever, and her mom chased her and was goofing around and everything. Just, like, a mother and daughter should be having fun. She's definitely seems like she's, like a normal kid.
Yeah, it was definitely nice seeing that, even though the actress was, I guess, a famous actress, from what I gathered in the movie. She was, did a lot of films, and even though she was famous and she had people working for her, she still had time to be a mother and spend time with her daughter and everything. And that was really nice. They really showed her as a parent more than an actress. That was really good because, these days, there's a lot of actors and actresses that they leave their kids care to nannies and stuff like that, instead of actually doing it themselves.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
come
what you
to
were saying that she had all those people helping her, but she still took the time to personally spend time with the child, and that was really good to see. Everybody else was there basically as a support instead of, oh, they're taking care of Reagan, and mom just pops in to say hi. That's not how it was.
well, and ultimately that's when we get this basement scene where she pulls out the Ouija board, and she refers to somebody known as Captain Howdy, which is apparently someone that she's like evidently contacted before as a child, and this is like her first bringing to her mother's attention how to play the Ouija board, and that's why Sharon is like, oh, you really don't want me to play with you? Oh, that's not it, So, I do think that is somewhat what actually transpired, is that she opened up the gate there during the Ouija board session, and just kind of left that spiritual gateway in and left herself receptive to whatever force ultimately took over her body.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to be playing with those by yourself.
I do think the Ouija board had something to do with it, although I think it also had to do with the fact that the demon Pazuzu, you father married from the past, and it was, I think it was a part of the plan to. I think the demon kind of wanted to confront that priest again, but that was an explanation I read online, so I'm not completely sure about it. But I do think there is some backstory between Pazuzu and Father Merrin, which I think is elaborated on more in other movies in the franchise, maybe in The Exorcist 2, or maybe in some other movies
It's
in the
very
series.
it's very possible that it was definitely explained in either the beginning or Dominion, which, if I remember correctly, Dominion is a sequel to the beginning. So, um, but other than that, let's continue forward here. So, um, after we get this Ouija boards scene, this is where we get to see a little bit more of Carys and the fact that he is returned home to his mom. We get the sense that he was quite the prolific boxer because of all of these trophies that are sitting in his mother's home. And his mother seems to be very much wanting to continue to be in her home until she's dead, kind of a person. Because he tries to say, tell her, hey, I'd like to take you to a place where you can be taken care of more. And she's like, this is my house. And as long as I live here in my house, I do not want to leave. What do you think about that moment?
Well, actually, I somewhat understood her there because I probably wouldn't want to leave my house either. And but yeah, then again, I also understood why Damien would want her to be at some place where there could be people around when she needed something. Uh, Although, then again, maybe he could have hired someone to be with her at home. So,
Well, and then after those series of scenes, we get the hospital, the doctor visits beginning to happen in Reagan's life because apparently there appears to be something wrong with her, and at least to her mother. And I guess on that first initial visit, I guess she displays some dialogue or language that is unbecoming of her. I believe the doctor phrased it like this: that as he asked her mom if she had ever displayed any language outside of the norm, and she's like, no, why did she? And he's like, well, she definitely gave us kind of quite the tirade, and I think the thing that she said was, get your hands away from my cunt, or something to that effect. What did you think about when you heard that?
apparently, she said, from my goddamn cunt. I personally found it amusing, but then again, I am a person who tends to find bad language amusing in general. So maybe someone else would have a different impression.
Tammy, you had said to me that at the time that this film came out, when Reagan started spitting insanities, uh, that this was like kind of unheard of at that time, correct?
Yeah, I don't think in 1973 they expected a child to be spitting obscenities on the TV, on their movie screen, TV screen, whatever screen you're watching it on. But yeah, I don't think that was something that was really heard of. I think that was a bit of a shocker, I think, in this movie for people, because normally you never had children saying things like that, and she said quite a few as she got worse.
Way worse.
Wow.
I love that when I first saw it. Like I said, I saw it on TV, so all the squares were bleeped out, or not bleeped out, but they dubbed it over, which I don't remember. So when I saw it this time, I'm like, oh man, she really swears. Like she didn't swear in the TV version, or I didn't, they got rid of the swears. So I didn't realize how profane she was actually in that film for that, and I definitely that time. I mean, even now you watch the TV, they're big on, violence is fine, but you can't swear. I think it's hilarious. But
Well,
I always kind of refer it back to George Carlin's 7 swear words you can't see on TV.
I love George Carlin. Definitely love him. Yeah, swears make me swear. I swear right and left. I'm a huge swearer. Got off my mother. So
Tammy,
make me laugh.
do you happen to remember what all the swears were that George Carlin actually said you could not say on TV?
No, but if you were to ask my dad, he could go through the whole thing, because my dad likes George Carlin, and he can rattle off the whole thing.
Fuck, bitch, cunt, twat. Yeah, I don't remember all of them. Fuck, bitch, cunt, twat. We're definitely up there.
I know my dad can sit there and he'll have his hand up and he'll be like, that, and he'll say the whole thing just like Carlin, and I'm like,
it's been a while since I've seen Carlin at Carnegie, but yeah, that's where he does it. It's absolutely a riot. But we're going off topic a little bit.
but, actually, I think we didn't directly.
It's shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
Piss is on there, really?
Yeah, these were
I guess
all.
they don't say piss, do they? That's weird. That's weird. I don't consider piss a swear word at all.
The only reason why I bring it up is because she certainly is over a progression of time. Definitely goes like says all of them at least.
I mean, not to go too much more further in the movie, but there's a scene where one thing she says that I'm just like, wow. She goes, "Why don't you stick your cock in her ass?"
It's when she's referring to Carys, and she's suggesting for him to stick his cock in the other priest's ass. We'll get.
Yeah, it definitely was like, holy shit, that was like a really awesome scene. And even like I said, nowadays you probably wouldn't hear anyone say that, never mind a child. And it was just great. It was absolutely just awesome to hear kids say that in the film, because she's being possessed. It was definitely something that I'm sure would happen in a real possession.
Well, and one of the things that Dane had said on our Inside Movies Galore discussion was the fact that the medical part of the film is kind of an underrated thing that people tend to gloss over. The fact that there were all these monstrous like machines shaking her about and scanning her, and the whole scene where Sharon was just watching from behind a window as this big gigantic needle just went into her daughter's neck.
Yeah, they really did. I've seen a lot of movies, and most movies, someone goes in the hospital, you see it before and the after. You don't actually show that much of the procedure. A little bit here and there in some movies, but or TV shows. But they were like really in depth, showing like what they were exactly doing to her and stuff. And it was really interesting.
These doctors are so dumb because they just kept doing these tests and stuff, and you could see her eyes, in her eyes. Okay, none of these things that you're running the test for would make her eyes look like that.
Right. But they were convinced that it was science, that it was a medical condition, and that's the only thing that would fix it, until the one doctor was like, well, we heard of, he still thinks that the possession wasn't real because he was saying that the suggestion of an exorcism would work. But in reality of the movie, she really was possessed. So it was a good suggestion, at least.
Originally they thought it was a lesion on the stem of her brain, and they wanted to remove it. And the thing is, when they kept giving her CAT scans and I thought it was somewhat comical because it took that big ass machine just to get pictures of her skull. And then you get up
nowadays.
And everything just kept coming back negative, and these doctors were stumped, and you could tell that they were starting to look like the dumbfounded quacks that they are, so
I got news for you. The machines are still big, just not as big and not as loud and not as
they're not.
They are still big, and the CAT scan ones definitely do make lots of noise.
Oh yeah, it definitely but it was like it actually. I'm watching it, and it's like it was so loud. I was like, I kind of jumped a little bit because it was just like, what the fuck? That's like loud. My TV, I had a normal amount. We can hear it, but all of a sudden my TV just went like super high.
You can just imagine what Linda Blair was probably feeling like laying down, listening to that. It's like, this must be the method form of getting me to be scared for my role.
Right.
You wanted me to be in that mindset, set director. You got me there.
Not to mention, it probably might have made her partially deaf. I mean, that was freaking loud on the TV. Never mind. On the set.
So ultimately, the first thing that we see is where I guess Sharon has a party at her home, and I guess Father Dyer is there along with Burke and a couple of other people, and it seems to be like one of those really well-dressed parties, where there's a dinner and there's social gathering, and anyone who's anybody could be there, but there is a select group of people around a piano singing a song, and that's when Reagan shows up, pees on the floor, and says, "You're going to die." The Premonition of Death. What do y'all think about that scene?
Well, I actually found the fact that she peed on the floor actually funny. I laughed at that. Now about what she said about the guy being about to die, I wasn't thinking much about that, since I don't know, I guess it's not too surprising for a possessed child to say something like that. And actually, speaking of which, what you have been commenting about these scientific scenes, about all the examinations they did on her and so on, I actually kind of understand why some people don't pay so much attention to those scenes, because the very fact that the very fact that the movie is titled The Exorcist already spoils that medical examinations would turn out to be useless. So I guess people just don't even pay so much attention to those scenes.
What do you think about that scene, Tammy, when Reagan shows up and he's on the floor?
Well, it definitely gets everybody's attention, that's for sure. Um, um, I think as the film goes, that was a way. Besides the things that you had seen at the doctor's office, it was a way for everybody to kind of see that something's going on here. You know, for her to come downstairs and do that, and then to say what she said, and she shocked everybody. And I think that was a shock to everybody watching it too. That whoa, there's really is something going on here. So.
What about you, Krol?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a crazy scene there, and definitely knows something's going on. And her mother's just like, "I'm sorry, she's been sick," trying to explain it away, but doesn't really explain it very well why this child just came down there in the middle of a party and peed and said that people were gonna die. So it's definitely like one of those things, where you just kind of gloss over it.
You kind of just shrug your shoulders and okay, what's next? And then we also get the scene where the doctors come in. I guess has been called by the housekeeper, and they come in, and she's like thrashing around the beds. She's jumping up and down, or her body just seems to be flinging off the bed like constantly. And they literally have to like put her to sleep. And then, of course, a little bit later, there's the hypnotist that comes by because they think that a hypnotist is going to do something, and he literally brings the demon out from behind inside Reagan, who ultimately goes for a mouth grab to the crotch. Which is kind of an interesting scene. What do y'all think about that scene? What about you, Boris? Did you think that that Reagan was going to get some head like that?
Are you wait? I'm sorry. Are you referring to the scene when her face gets disfigured?
Well, her face gets disfigured, and but also I'm referring to the part where the hypnotist comes into the room and talks to Reagan, and then tries to talk the demon out, and then ultimately she goes for his crotch, and you see him go to the ground.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The chronological order of these scenes got a bit mixed up in my head.
Well, yeah, that's later after the initial doctor visit, because then they think that maybe a hypnotist can like bring it around or bring whatever is inside her to confront itself. Since
well, they think that she's got might have multiple personalities. That's why they bring the hypnotist in, because they think that they can bring the personality to the surface that's causing this. But it's a lot more than a personality.
Right.
Well, and ultimately, and she also she's she also before the doctor even came into the room in the original scene when the doctors came in, she was like, "Fuck me, doctor! Fuck me! Fuck me, doctor! Fuck me!"
Yep.
Yeah, actually, that maybe was one of the nastier scenes because even though I laughed at the bad language, we also see her do self harm with that crucifix. She sticks it up her vagina, and we see blood pop out, and that was a bit nasty to watch. So maybe that was actually one of the more seriously gruesome scenes in the
Yeah,
movie.
that's when
Yeah,
she
definitely.
that's when her mother actually comes into the room, and that's what that's when she comes into the room after hearing Reagan like scream or whatnot. She goes in and she's stabbing the shit out of her crotch, and that's when like a drawer goes towards the door, and then a boudoir or she actually basically gets hurt in this whole process, and I think that's what kind of scares her. And there's a couple of scenes that Tammy mentioned while
Well,
she's walking.
she grabs her mom though in that scene and pushes her mom down in her crotch. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah,
And she's telling her to lick it.
Yeah, there was another scene when she was telling them to fuck me. She was lifting up her robe and saying fuck me," and she's like moving her hips like, you know. It was just
And the
absolutely
doctors
crazy.
are
I
just
mean,
standing there like, what do we do now?
I don't think they would make a movie like that now. The outcry. I'm surprised people haven't like gone back to Exorcist and the outcry on it. You know, these days with political correctness and everything else, this film would
you're
be
talking about the
absolutely
cancel
horrible
culture.
to them. Like they'd want to fucking block this or take those scenes out of the film or something. You know, which they're all perfect for the fucking film. They get, you know, it's exactly what it's supposed to. You know,
You're
but it's
talking about
definitely very
You're talking about the cancel culture of this day and age.
yes, exactly. It's definitely horrible.
Don't
I'm
even.
surprised that this hasn't come under the cancellation
Yes,
block
that's what
yet.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm really surprised because after what I mean, like I said, when I saw it on TV, obviously that part was cut out, so I didn't see it as a kid. You know, so now seeing this, I'm like, wow, like, this is really like something. You know, she's lifting up her you know, bed thing.
Now
and
I see what they were
nightgown and-
saying years ago, huh?
the only thing they were saying, it was just scary. They never said anything else like the profanity and shit. Just they said it was scary. And again, I saw nothing scary about it. I mean, yeah, she looks freaking. I mean, in real life, if I saw a girl like that, I'd be fucking freaked out and scared. But when I'm watching a movie, I know it's a movie, so you know it doesn't scare me.
It was definitely a movie that brought about some things that may actually happen. Although some people think that the puking part, like the first time that we actually see the puking, is in fact when Father Carys actually comes and visits her, and the first time that he actually visits her, she pukes up in his face, and that's when he like walks out, wipes it off, and whatnot and not. Now there are those of us who have seen the scary movie version of The Exorcist, which the puke scenes go on forever, but that's
I've seen it.
But ultimately. She does puke again later on when Father Maris gets involved.
He's trying to exercise her.
Yep.
Yeah, gets her right in the glasses, right in the eyes, and he just keeps on going, and you know, slowly wipes it out of his eyes and stuff. But he was a trooper.
I honestly thought for the time that this film came out, that was impressive. to say the least. I mean,
Definitely.
nowadays, looking back, the puke may be a little much, especially now that they've gotten better with exorcism scenes. But I do think that that when it comes to, well, we'll get to that, the special effects. But
I really like it, even for today's standards. It just she puked up, and she puked up. It was like it was green. It wasn't like puke. You know, it was just this like green goo stuff that it's like, where the hell did that come from? But I really liked it. It really adds the fact that she was possessed. That obviously a human being normally couldn't throw up something like that unless she had something really strange or whatever. I don't know. But
funnily enough,
yeah. So I really like
today when I was rewatching the movie, my parents were there, and when there was this scene of that green goo coming out as vomit, my father commented how it kind of looks like some soup that we eat sometimes.
well, it's basically what was used. Believe it or not, it was pea soup that was used. So I'm pretty sure that it was.
Interesting.
But it was interesting the ways in which that it was used, and I thought it was used rather well for the film. Maybe the puking was a bit over the top to some people, but to show that level of demonism and that level of intensity, that something in which uses a body against its own free will. These are some of the earlier effects of how they were able to show that on screen. I mean, you can't just shake a bed and that just be the end of it. You have to show levels of deterioration and
yeah.
Levels of violence and levels of haunting in order to get to that certain level where this is just where shit just went crazy, and you have left your sense of reality, and this is now hell, people. So welcome.
Yeah, it's such a great scene where she just her mother's trying to hold her down, and she punches her mother right in the eye, and basically knocks her back and shit. She fucks her mother up, and and then I think my favorite scene is the scene I've always remembered my entire life. Whenever you say Exorcist, is the head turn. Like that is just the awesomest scene when her head just turns all the way around. And I know, like you was talking about,
Well, she doesn't
her head
just
turns around like a million
she
times.
doesn't just do it once. She does it twice. The first time she does it for the doctors. Like she turns her head, swivels the head around once, and that's when they come into the room. Okay, and then she does it again later. But I love how slow. I love how slow she does it. It's like a slow clockwise turn.
Yeah, it's definitely great special effects on how they did that. I mean, like I said, they really, really looked like Reagan was doing that. Like really, her head was really turning around like that, and definitely great special effects on it.
Ultimately, Sharon, her mother, ultimately does eventually turn to Carys, because and I think it's kind of cool how he just comes upon her like while she's like out after the great Reagan beat up, where she's out there looking like a vampire, all beat up. And,
she got sunglasses on because she wanted.
Yep. looking like a vampire. So this is not an Exorcist movie. This is now a vampire movie. No, just kidding. What do you think about this whole conversation that she has with Carys? What do you think, Tammy?
Well, she's trying to ask him about exorcism, and so she's asking him all these questions and getting his opinion on everything, because she's working up to, because she doesn't want to just come right out and go, hey, I think I need an exorcism. My daughter is doing this, but and
in a way she kind of does, because when she says it, she's like, so how do you go about and get to get an exorcism done?
And his face just, he just is totally taken aback, because she's been like hinting about things up until then, and then when she finally comes out and says it, he's just like
what the heck, and then of course he doesn't, believe her at all.
I think that's what he said, excuse me, or something like that, and she repeated it, and you could just see the look on his face, like, oh,
we don't do that kind of thing like anymore. That's like something medieval.
Yeah. It was even the Catholics were trying to hide the fact that they used to do that and stuff. And
even he said, when he finally answered her, he said, well, first we'd have to go back to like the 16th century and
and get all medieval on her. But ultimately, I guess it comes down to first, well, you got to be able to prove that she is indeed demonically possessed, and I guess there are levels of things that they do to test that theory, and one of them just so happens to be that if she's like speaking some other kind of language,
foreign language,
correct. And so what he does is he actually goes and gets some tap water, and he throws it at her and says that it's holy water, and I guess Reagan starts tossing and turning on the bed saying, "Oh, it burns! Oh, it burns!" And while she's tossing and turning, I guess she speaks some kind of other language. Well, when they go back and listen to the tape, there's a language professor that is listening along with Carys, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's some kind of language. It's an English speaking a language. It's just said backwards." And he's like, "What?" So he listens to it forwards, and it's saying something like, "I am no one. I am no one. I am no one." But as he listens to it, I think he hears his mother's voice in it too.
No, what the demon had said. Well, the Reagan had said, your mother is in here with me, and blah blah blah. That taunted him, and like she knew that his mother had just passed away, and blah blah blah, and that's why the priest still didn't believe that she was, possessed. But then he thought
that Reagan was possessed by one, if not three people.
And then he says to the mother, like, does she know? Do you know that my mother recently passed away? And she's like, yeah, oh yes. And he says, well, does Reagan know? And she's like, no, there's no way. And then he's just like, and then she's like, why? He's like, not important. And he walked away. But that's where he starts to believe that this has got to be something, It seems like the demon was like fucking with him when they said it was the holy water. Like, obviously it wasn't burning, and the demon was just fucking with him.
Yeah.
And then talking in a different language, you just did English backwards. So it really seemed like the demon was just fucking with them, like trying to make it seem like he's not really there, whatever. Which is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting because most of the time the demon's like, "Yeah, I'm here, motherfuckers. What are you gonna do about it?" But that time it was kind of like he was trying to be sneaky. Like it's really not him. It's really the little girl who having a split personality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talking backwards, I mean, it may not be a different language, but definitely very difficult, and probably very difficult for a girl that age to learn to speak things.
Well, we lost him for a moment, but he'll be back. But I was going to bring up the fact that even on certain records, there are things said backwards, forwards. Tammy, isn't there a certain Led Zeppelin record that supposedly
Led Zeppelin 4, if you play Stairway to Heaven backwards in the area where the song goes, there are two paths you can go by. If you play that backwards, it does say, "Here's to my sweet Satan," because I have done it. It was in more than one book that I have, and I have a turntable, and I'm a Zeppelin freak, so, and actually, even if you open up the record album itself and you put it against the mirror, you can see a demon. So,
Ooh, that's interesting.
Oh
yes.
yeah. The thing that I wanted to say, the reason why I brought that up is because there are certain things that that people have been able to do audio wise to make something backwards forwards or forwards backwards. You know, so I think
There was a lot of controversy over that because they said they tried to say that they did that on purpose and things like that when they wrote the song in like 10 minutes. So that was way back. There was lots and lots of stuff about that.
You talking about Ozzy?
No, we're talking about Led Zeppelin.
Led
Oh,
Zeppelin,
okay.
Stairway to Heaven.
Sorry,
I
disconnected for a
think you
second.
cut
So I
out
missed it.
when I was saying I'm
Yeah,
a big
I
Zeppelin
did.
freak. I collect it, and if you play, here's to my. If you play, there are two paths you can go by. That part in that song. If you play
Yeah.
it backwards, it does say "Here's to my sweet Satan" because I've done it. So
Yeah, I really don't think that Led Zeppelin had that in mind when they made the song.
no, but if you
Weird.
take that record album and you put the record, open the record album itself, and you put it against a mirror, you can see a demon in that scene.
Really, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Like I said, I'm a Zeppelin freak, so every time something came up, I had to check it out.
Yeah, Zeppelin's awesome. I love Led Zeppelin, and that's a great song. You know, they are so influenced by Lord of the Rings and stuff too, and medieval. It's the same stuff as I like, and it's really great. You know.
Oh yeah, the
Like I
song
heard
"Ramble
the
On." They talk about
immigrant song, and
that song.
Cashmere.
Well, "Ramble On" is the one that talks about the stuff from the Lord of the Rings.
That does too. Yeah, they all do. Immigrant song does. Cashmere does. Yeah. Definitely a lot of their inspiration is Lord of the Rings. It's great. You know.
Oh yeah. But let's get back to the film. So it's at this point where we have specifically talked about the whole talking backwards language, and that's when he begins to listen to the audio and ultimately, what is the specific factor that makes him believe that an exorcism is needed, and how is it that he is able to contact Marin in order to perform it? Because I think the scene where he arrives in the taxi and he's in that top hat and you see just the silhouette of him is kind of like a very important scene to me.
Well, he contacted his higher ups. I can't think of the name. The priest that's ahead of him, and
The Archbishop or Archdiocese.
Yeah, and they discussed things and talked to who they could get for the exorcism, and then they mentioned him, and someone said, the other guy's like, oh, he might be too old, and like they figured that he could still sprint around archaeology digs, then he could be able to handle this. So that's why they decided to get him, because he's basically the best expert they have on an exorcism. So, Yeah, yeah. I think what convinced him is really Reagan knowing about his mother and uh, that's what convinced him that there really was something there. Because how would the kid know about his this priest that she never met? His mother had passed away. I mean, even if she heard of a priest that's mother passed away, like how would she know it was him? Like she never met him before. Only the mother had. So definitely,
very true.
yeah.
So ultimately, he arrives, this Father Marin, and he comes up, and they begin to perform a ritual where apparently he is able to say things, and then there are responses, and he's got actual holy water. And it looks like he's got like this whole like kit and caboodle that he brings along whenever he says these things, and it gets really intense when they both are saying together these famous lines that may the power of Christ compel you, may the power of Christ compel you. What do y'all think about this whole exorcism a bit, this whole speech that they have to say? What about you, Tammy?
I liked when she levitated and they were doing it. I thought that was awesome. But as far as the speech thing, I know we've seen, I can't rattle off other movies quite like you do, but I know we've seen it in other movies, The Power of Christ Compels You. It's been, I don't know if it's because The Exorcist started it, but we've seen it in other movies before where they've done the same speech. And a lot of what they used in this movie to try to get the demon out of her, we have seen in other movies, and I don't know if it's just because Exorcist started it.
I know it was.
Yeah.
I know it was imitated in the latest Ghostbuster Buster movie. May the power of Patty compel you.
It actually was used in This Is the End. If you guys ever seen that movie, absolutely hilarious movie. And he says it was Jonah Hill's character, and like the power of Christ compels you, and it's the way they do the scene. It's just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like he's Jewish or whatever, and it just doesn't work. It's just
Boris and I covered that film. It was a blast.
I love that movie.
He performed an exorcism with a cross made of spatulas.
Yeah. The power of Christ compels you. Trying to make a cross.
Yeah, the cross was put together from two spatulas attached to each other like this.
Any movie that makes Tanner Tatum or Channing a bitch is priceless.
I like him, but yeah, it definitely was a hilarious movie. I mean, he was really his bitch, and it was really, 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 really funny. Like, as soon as I saw him on a leash and stuff, I was like, "Oh my god!" I was just laughing my ass off. That movie is just absolutely hilarious. But yeah, so it definitely Exorcist has inspired a shit ton of other movies and in a lot of different things, like the throw up.
I think, did become like the movie to look up to when it comes to an exorcism movie. So
definitely.
So to me, it's like when people think of a monster movie, a lot of people look to Jaws as like
I'd say Dracula or the Wolfman or Frankenstein first. Okay.
Well, yeah. You get what I'm saying. There's movies that people look up to and be like, yes, that's the movie to be inspired by. That's the movie in order to use it. In order to use it going forward as something to as like a a floorboard or a back design of some sort, and that whatever reaction that movie or this movie got for their audience, that's what you want to do in your film going forward. So,
Oh yeah, like
but
Lord of the Rings for anything medieval or anything like that. It's now Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings is the movie to look up to. Like you want to make a film that's anywhere close to as good as that. As a starting board.
Lord of the Rings, not the Hobbit trilogy. Just so you know,
I really enjoyed the Hobbit trilogy.
I enjoyed it too.
I agree. Lord of the Rings is definitely the better spectacular. I mean, the dragon scene in the Hobbit movies was really fucking great. I loved the dragon scenes. But yeah, Lord of the Rings is definitely the better of the two trilogies, and that's why I always wish Peter Jackson would do Dragonlance. But again, that's off topic. So.
Tammy, you were going to say something?
The best dragon is in Dragonheart. That is the best dragon.
I disagree, but that's okay.
To me, that is the most realistic dragon, and I just love how they did it. So that's my favorite dragon movie.
It's good. I mean, I just love the scene. I mean, hell, the Game of Thrones dragon scenes where he's burning the
those were
town.
phenomenal.
And that was a TV show, not even a movie. So those were absolutely great as well. So there's been a lot of great dragon scenes. I mean, the original Dragonlance movie was not a great movie, but they did have some really cool looking dragons in it. So CGI wise, it was a decent film, just not story wise.
But in any case, off topic, let's get back to the movie. So here we are at the levitation of Reagan, and we get the point where Carys has been outed by the demon because it has basically shown itself as like his dead mother, and it basically puts him to the sidelines while Father Marin continues the rites of exorcism. And I guess while he's in there, he, I guess, ultimately comes to die, or has sacrificed himself, basically. And Carys walks in, and she's untied, and she's laughing and cackling her ass off, and he's just a frozen stiff. And what do y'all think about what happens next?
It's crazy, he basically just grabs Reagan and starts punching her. I'm like, and all I'm thinking is she's still a 12-year-old kid. I understand his being upset, and his colleague has just been killed by this demon that's in the girl, but he's hitting a little girl. He's not hitting the demon. So it's just kind of like, holy shit, he's kind of lost it. And good thing he stops, but it was like, he was really going at it at first.
Well,
Yeah,
he basically is shouts at the demon, take me. And the demon basically jumps into his body. You can see his transformation right before he makes that giant leap out the window, and takes the same tumbling fall that Burke had done earlier.
Right, but he jumps out instead of.
What were you going to say, Boris?
I was going to say what you mentioned about Carys starting to hit the demon, which technically he was hitting the girl. It's actually an interesting moment, because before that there was this conversation between Father Carys and Father Marin when they were discussing why the demon had possessed the girl in the first place, and they mentioned something about the demon trying to make them. I think they said the demon was trying to make them see themselves as animals, see themselves as unworthy of God's love, something like that. And in this scene, when Kara starts hitting the demon, actually something like that happens. Like he loses control of his anger, and it's that animalistic instinct when someone is making you angry. Your natural impulse is to attack them physically. It makes you kind of act like an animal, and that's what Carys really did in that scene.
Well, and I think. Go ahead. What are you saying?
Just to back up a little bit, did you guys notice during the movie at certain points you actually saw the demon? When the mother came home the one time and the kitchen area was dark and then the lights kept flickering, when the lights came back on, the shroud that came over the cooking area, you saw the demon on there. And then she comes up to the room, right before she opens the door, you see the demon on the other side of the door. And then when the priests are getting to the final point, you see the actual demon, like the one that the full demon, like at the dig site, and you see just like it's like just a shadow kind of it. So you actually do in 3 points get to actually see the demon if you realize it. So, but as far as where you were right now, I thought that was kind of freaky that he went off on her because she is still a little girl, but you understood where he was coming from. This priest, the other priest, is dead. The demon is sitting there laughing. He just loses control because he doesn't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what do you think about the ending that we get? The fact that I guess she doesn't even Reagan doesn't even remember anything. She's kind of gone back to normal, and I guess Father Dreyer, who was ultimately a friend of Carys's, I guess he meets the detective, and the detective asks him the same goofy story about wanting to see a movie with him. I want to see this movie, and it's got Jackie Gleason and Lucille Ball in it. When it was, what was it? It was Wuthering Heights, and Jackie Gleason and Lucille Ball were never in a version of Wuthering Heights. They were comedians, and Wuthering Heights is like this doom and gloom kind of a story. So it's like
it's definitely not their type of movie.
Interesting.
But I guess the necklace that Father Carys had on him was left in the room, and Sharon had given Father Dreyer the necklace, and he gave it right back to her. But I thought it was a good ending.
Yeah, I guess it was a good ending, although I found it kind of sad that Father Carys died, because throughout the whole movie he was actually the character we got to know the best. He had the most fleshed out characterization of all characters, so I found it kind of sad to see him go that way. And another thing I would like to point out about Regan getting released from the demon. Well, she was possessed. The demon made her rotate her head all the way around, which technically would have broken her neck. So while the demon was still inside her body, the demon could have still kept the body alive in spite of the neck being broken. But by some logic of physics and biology regarding the fact that she had spinned her head all around, she should have been dead at the end. Although I'm glad she wasn't, but by some logic, it would have made sense if she had died from that thing happening.
Well, at this point, we would have talked about the production, but I think we've talked about that enough. And I know we heard your favorite scene, Krol, but do you still stand by that favorite scene as being her head turns around?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of great scenes. I did want to mention one thing. I wrote this down. The scene where the father is so intent on, was it Karen? His name?
Carys.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, he was so intent on what he was doing and on his research, and he all of a sudden, the phone rings and he jumps, and I just laughed because it was just so funny that he's dealing with all this shit and the phone rings and it makes him jump. That was a scene there I laughed. I mean, there was definitely a few other scenes where I probably could have laughed, but I didn't. But that one definitely made me laugh out loud. That one got to me. The swearing definitely I chuckled and enjoyed, but that one definitely was a big laugh. And but still, my favorite scene is definitely the neck the twisting. And I mean, you can't think of Exorcist and not think of that head twist. I mean, whether it's your favorite scene or not, it's that and the throat scene are the two scenes that you think of when you hear Exorcist, in my opinion.
What about you, Boris? What is a favorite scene that you could take from this?
Well, my favorite scene would probably be the exorcism itself. Although, yeah, the scene with the head turning is definitely impressive. I agree with that. But my favorite part would probably be this famous quote when the demon says, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell." Although it definitely wasn't scary, but it was to me one of the funniest moments in the movie. And
Definitely was.
yeah, I liked it a lot because yeah, I find it amusing how back then that was supposed to be scary, and nowadays a quote like that, yeah, if you're trying to be scary, you won't say your mother sucks cocks in hell, because nowadays that's something you can hear a grumpy teenager say or something like that. And also another thing I wanted to say earlier when you were mentioning about Reagan swearing, I was going to say, as far as I remember, we actually didn't directly hear her swear so much. We heard the doctor say that she said the goddamn cunt, but we actually didn't see her on screen say that. And when she did use some bad language, she was saying it in a demonic voice when she was already possessed, so we didn't directly get to hear a child using language like that.
Still, it was supposedly supposed to be coming from the kid, and at that point in time, we were in a society where we are trying to teach our children not to swear and be polite, and this is a time and period where people were still strict on that. There was a lot of things that were happening in the 70s, including the end of the 60s. So,
thank you.
And I also really found it amusing how I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead.
Who?
You were
Oh,
gonna say something?
yes, during the exorcism scene, aside from this quote, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell," that really made me laugh. I found it really interesting how the priests are going nuts trying to exorcise the demon. I don't know, with prayers, holy water, stuff like that, and nothing is working, and the demon is just like taking the piss out of them, just laughing at them, using bad language, vomiting in their faces, like he's not even taking them seriously. I found that really funny.
And it only got scared when the holy water came around. It was like
Yeah, the real holy water.
yeah.
and not just the tap water.
Yeah, it knew when it was really holy water because you saw its eyes go, "Keep that fucking thing away from me." You know, it's just like, like, oh shit, this is really gonna burn. It's not a thing.
You saw the holy water go away because when she was levitating and he was spraying the water on her, you saw the cuts come. But the levitation is my favorite part. So.
Oh, the levitation! Yeah, that reminds me.
So
I saw
that. So that is your favorite scene?
Yeah.
I remember seeing some funny memes with that levitation. Like, I remember someone took a screenshot of the levitation and they photoshopped a person standing on Reagan while she was levitating and using her to paint the wall. Like, some parts of the wall they couldn't reach if she wasn't levitating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
definitely a great scene.
I would have to say that my favorite scene. I'm trying to. I think my favorite scene is when Father Carys actually sees his mother in the bed. Even though I know that the rotation of the head is also a favorite. I have to say when his mother is laying there in the bed, and she looks like something out of a Dickens Ghost of Christmas Past kind of thing, you know, and I know she's supposed to be the haunting aspect of him. You know, the part that he fears the most is seeing his mother after she's dead or something like that, and hearing her complain about, you know, her condition or whatnot, and why he abandoned her, this and that.
Feed me.
Yeah, feed me,
Dimmy, you left me alone, Dimmy.
But just the portrayal of, and I did like the vision that he had of his mother leaving in a terminal. I don't know why, but you also saw a bit of a flash of the demon there too in that vision, and I like that too. So
yeah, definitely. Like I said,
it was
definitely
an
a lot of great scenes.
It was an abstract scene, so anything
definitely.
that.
But it wasn't so abstract like some directors have that you're like, what?
Like,
you know,
what just happened? You know?
What are we seeing? I kept obviously I'm thinking of David Lynch, but Zack Snyder, like when you first see Justice League and the Flash comes back from the past and says, you know, she's saving her as the key, and it's like, what the fuck does that mean?
But in any case, is there anything else that anybody else wants to say about the film before we close out?
Well, I wanted to say that this movie, although I have seen it before, but now when I collect statues and stuff like that, this movie kind of makes me want to add the statue of Pazuzu to my collection. So I,
Well, if your head starts turning around, we know what happened.
yeah. Well, I guess I already have quite several demons in my room, so if I'm still not spinning my head around, I guess I won't even start.
So
Well,
I
you
guess
never know.
so I guess these are some of the goofs that may have happened in the film.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that this movie, I remember now watching it with my dad, and I remember him being goofy and sitting there when she did the turning her head, and I remember him sitting there going and turning his head, like as far as he could, and I'm like, and I'm sitting there like watching this, like like in anticipation of what's going on, and he's sitting there doing this, and I'm like, Dad.
I'm trying to watch the movie.
Well,
All right,
he
so-
also, like, when we watch spooky movies, he can whistle and hum at the same time, and it sounds really eerie. And he'd like to do that like all the time.
That's cool.
All right. So apparently, in the basement scene where Father Carys visits the Georgetown home rented by Chris, the 2x10 ceiling joists are fairly new looking, despite the fact that it is a federal style home circa 1780 1830, revealing it as a built set and not an actual location of that era. I guess when Reagan insults Carys's mother, the lines don't match her mouth movements. I don't know.
I noticed that.
Once in the Iraq scene, the shadow of a microphone is visible on Father Marin's hat. William Peter Blatty closely modeled the exorcism scene on the actual rite of exorcism in the church's Ritual Romanum. Father Marin can be seen opening a copy of the ritual in the scene in question. However, the priests depart from the ritual in two important details. First, there should have been 4 people apart from Reagan in the room during the exorcism. The exorcist himself, an assistant priest to take over in case the exorcist died midway through, a member of the victim's family of the same sex as the victim to help restrain her, and a doctor to, among other things, administer any medication that was needed. Due to the 2-priest rule, Father Marin should have delayed the second round of the exorcism and phoned the bishop to get a replacement for Father Carys instead of trying to tackle it on his own. So,
we already said he lost control, and when he was beating the hell out of the kids, so obviously he wasn't thinking about calling backup. He was just thinking about getting this fucking demon out of the child and getting rid of it. He didn't even care about sacrificing himself just at that point. So
in the 2000 re-release, when Father Marin asks Chris McNeil what Reagan's middle name is, she is wearing a fur coat. When the priests enter Reagan's room and Father Carys closes the door in her face, Mrs. McNeil is no longer wearing the coat. This was fixed on some versions of the DVD by adding a coat digitally. At the beginning of the exorcism, Reagan's blanket is yellow. Towards the end, when Father Carys is checking her heart, the blanket is blue.
it got cold.
The cigarette that Chris stomps out in the park is back in her
what
hand.
Did you say?
The cigarette that Chris stomps out in the park is back in her hand a moment later.
I'm sorry, Tammy, what did you say a moment ago when Dave left?
I didn't say anything.
Wait, then who said something that Dave laughed at?
Oh, I did.
Oh, what did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
He said the blanket was yellow and then it went blue, and I said it got cold.
Ah.
In the establishing shot of Georgetown, a building signs read Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Yet not much later in the film, Chris walks past some trick-or-treating kids. I told you it was trick-or-treating kids.
Ah.
Tammy, when we were watching the film, you said it was just a couple of kids running around. I told you it was trick-or-treaters.
No, one thing I wanted to point out was first you see the priest smoking, which, from what I've heard, priests aren't supposed to smoke. And then
it was around Halloween because I saw the kids dressed up as like Halloween characters, and they were running around. And she said, "Oh, that's just a bunch of kids." So those were trick or treaters.
Yes, you were right.
But
I was saying when I heard from Catholic priests they're not supposed to smoke or drink or anything, and he was smoking, and not only smoking, then he went and had a drink with the mother too, so he drank as well. So I put those down as notes too, because I'm like, well, Catholic priests aren't supposed to be smoking and drinking, but they had him doing both.
So after the initial session of exorcism, Father Damien Carys unties Reagan's wrists from the bed and ties them together. When Father Marin returns to resume the session, Reagan's wrists are again tied to the bed.
Oh, yeah. That's right. They were.
When Father Carys is in the dorm sitting on the bed smoking a cigarette, the priest takes the cigarette from Carys and lays him down on the bed. When Father Carys sits up and grabs the priest's arm, the cigarette is still in Carys's right hand. In the next shot, the cigarette is back with the other priest.
Ooh.
At one point in the exorcism, Carys stands right at the end of the bed as it begins to thump on the floor. There's a cut to a wider shot showing this end lifting off the floor, but Carys has vanished. A subsequent shot shows him still standing in that spot. The length of Chris's hair changes from scene to scene. This is especially noticeable at her party. Her hair is much longer here than in previous scenes.
Ooh.
In the basement with the Ouija board, Reagan is playing with a table tennis paddle and ball. She puts the ball under the paddle and rests it on the table when her mother brings the Ouija board. Clearly, the ball is under the paddle, as evidenced by the angle of the paddle. In the very next shot, the paddle is flat on the table and the ball has disappeared. In the next shot, the ball reappears and demonstrated by the angle of the paddle. I don't know. Some people have way too much time on their hands.
Right? I mean, sometimes I'll notice little things here and there, but again, it really bothers me.
I just thought I'd explain some of these goops. Sometimes I like to explain these so people can be like, what? Why would you sit here and watch that?
Yeah, people just like to, like I say, nitpick about things. It's like this and that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I mean, blatant stuff I usually notice, but it's like they just sit there and watch for every little detail to be wrong, Oh, like someone's wearing a Timex watch in a period piece where there shouldn't be any watches or something, Well,
I thank you all for coming on to talk about this film. Hopefully the audience out there has enjoyed our conversation on The Exorcist. Definitely check us out and some other films that we'll be going on about in the future. Check out some of ours in the past. And looking forward to having more film adventures with all or none of you in the future. So In any
Is that,
case,
is that his way of saying we're fired?
no, I never said that. No. If anything, I'll exorcise the demons out of you.
It was just the way you said it. You're like all or none of you. None of you will be.
No. I think we all had fun here, so I think we'll continue to have some conversations with each other. So, like, share, and subscribe, and may the power of Christ compel you.
The power of Christ compels you.